Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of the Bitcoin News Show right here on the World. Oh, I almost said the World Crypto Network. Right here on the CryptoCast Network, guys. This is only our second episode over here on the CryptoCast Network, so we're really happy to be over here and presenting a bunch of new shows to you guys. We really have a bunch of awesome topics today, but before we get into those, just want to share again with you guys that we did start this new network here where you can find us at the CryptoCast.network website. We actually are launching a couple things today. So the first thing is we are launching a new show called Perspective. I'm going to have the first episode of that pretty soon. That's going to be really cool, focusing on interviewing the various writers in the space about providing more detail on the articles. So there's a couple of people I have lined up. Don't want to spoil anything right now, but I will have some more for information for you guys in the future. And then we actually have launched our own merchandise, guys. We have some actual t-shirts here for you guys to check out. For those listening in the audio, I am screen sharing right now, showing everybody the shirts that we have. There's about 5 shirts we have right now. We're going to try to add more shirts into the future. They have, for example, my logo on it, the CryptoCast logo, and some logos of the various shows that we have on the network, including the Bitcoin News Show. So very cool, guys. Check those out. Those are $25 a piece, and those are fulfilled by Amazon. And then, of course, this network is supported by you guys, the community. So if you guys get a chance, please drop us a tip when you can. We have we're screen sharing the address and the QR code right there. And then for the Programming Bitcoin workshop, guys, this is another thing we've launched just recently as well. This is called Programming with Bitcoin. You can find it at programmingwithbitcoin.com. This is a pretty awesome interactive 2-day workshop trying to teach C# developers how to integrate Bitcoin into their applications. So this is really cool because it's sort of complementary to Jimmy Song's course that teaches protocol developers. We actually teach application developers how to integrate Bitcoin. So this is really cool and taught by both myself and the creator of the Bitcoin library himself, Mr. Nicolas Dorier. And then you guys can see we have 3 dates currently that we're sharing. We have Las Vegas, September 1st, San Francisco, October 6th, and we are coming to Seattle, Washington, November 3rd. So we have a bunch of stuff lined up, guys, for trying to visit every city we can. And if you guys want us to come to your city, you can definitely visit the contact page at programmingwithbitcoin.com/contact. So let's stop the screen share and get into the Quickbits section, guys. We got lots of stuff to talk about before we go into the main topic. So a few things happened this week. Let's close this. Basically, let's get right into it here. So we got investors are turning to Bitcoin in Turkey as the Lira value drops, guys. Turkey's largest exchanges. I mean, there's a few different exchanges, but they're almost all reporting huge gains. So the Koinim is reporting a 63% increase in volume, and BTCTurk and Paribu, a couple other ones, they're all going from 35 to 100%. So if you guys look at the local Bitcoin volume as well in Turkey, it is just absolutely skyrocketing. So there's a whole lot of attention that's being paid to Bitcoin in these countries like Venezuela and Turkey. So interesting to check that out. And again, guys, we have the links to everybody's information and to all of these show notes, or all of these stories right here in the show notes. So make sure to check that out. The links are always ready for you guys there. Next, looks like the SEC currently has a lot on their plate because they are currently trying to decide on 9 different ETFs, guys, over in the next couple of months. There is just a whole lot of talk. There's really kind of only one or two that matters, right? The Solid X and a couple other ones, but it's really interesting just to see how much activity there is for Bitcoin, and to be able to bring these bigger financial instruments with Bitcoin to Wall Street. And then for the first time this year, Bitcoin dominance has hit over 50% for the first time, guys. This is the first time in 2018, over 50%. Now, I have said this on Twitter and the show many times in the past, that the actual Bitcoin dominance really doesn't matter too much in the long run, because you can't compare real Bitcoin that's has proof of work, that takes real electricity to mine, to other tokens that you can kind of create out of thin air, such as ICOs and stuff. But still, it's a relative to it's a relative metric, so we can understand how people are understanding crypto in the space. So very interesting, guys. Check that out. And then finally, Binance, guys, has presented a pre-alpha demo of their own decentralized exchange. We're going to talk a little bit about decentralized exchanges today, but just so you guys know, my personal opinion, they haven't released too much detail, but it's it's not really going to be fully decentralized, guys. It's from a centralized company, Binance. But hey, I really think that this is a step in the right direction. You know, we're trying to get more and more and more decentralized. It's a scale, right? We want to get more and more decentralized as time goes by. So this is, in my opinion, good news. Even if it's not, you know, fully decentralized yet, we are getting there, guys. There's more and more of these projects that are out there in the open. So I'm really excited to see that. Really excited to see us move away from these centralized exchanges. But without that, without a way, we can now start the introductions, guys. Really proud to bring you these guests that we do every week. We try to have new people and reoccurring people so we can get familiar with some people and always get new opinions in here into the mix. So first, let's introduce Miss Heidi herself from at Blockchain Check on Twitter. Heidi, how you doing? Oh no, you're muted.
Sorry. Hey, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Yes. Don't worry, Heidi. Everybody does that. We do that all the time. We always forget to unmute. Tone does it like 5 times a show, but we still love it. So, let's introduce Mr. Patrick himself. Patrick, guys, is a longtime Bitcoin enthusiast. He's an entrepreneur as well. Does various things in the space, and me and him, of course, go way back to the CoinDesk days in commenting. So nice to have you here again, Patrick. How you doing?
Good, thank you. Doing great.
Yeah, man, we really had a good time with you on the show last time you were here. So we hope to have some more great conversation while you're here. And then finally, guys, the special guest for today, Mr. Santiago himself from Democracy Earth. How you doing?
Hey, man, thanks for having me. A pleasure to be here.
Yes, absolutely glad. It's been a long time, man. We've been talking on Twitter for a while, and you know, I should have had you on a long time ago, man. But it's really glad to finally get you on here. We have a lot of conversation about Bitcoin in the Twitter space, and you know, we disagree and agree on a couple different things, but that's why we're here, to have a conversation and figure this stuff out. So
that's awesome.
Yes, man. So really appreciate you coming on the show. So, all right, guys, without further ado, let's get into the first topic. There is just so much to talk about. I'm really passionate about some of these topics. So I want to hear from actually, I want to hear from the chat too, guys, to see what you guys are thinking too. If you have any questions, please throw them in the chat. We are happy to answer them. But the first topic is pretty big one. It's made its way through the Twitter sphere now. Everybody's starting to think about this. Bitmain, one of the largest manufacturers of ASIC chips out there, guys. Bitmain has sold most of their Bitcoin for Bitcoin Cash, BCH, at around $900 per BCH. And the reason why we know this information is because they are actually trying to IPO. They are out there right now trying to get investors out there to do a pre-IPO and then eventually an IPO. And I think it's planned for September or the end of this year. So let's hear from the guests. First, we'll hear from you, Santiago. Let me ask you, what is this? What do you make of this news? Is Bitmain, first of all, is Bitmain IPOing a good thing? And what do you make of them selling almost all their Bitcoin for Bitcoin Cash? Will they have any purchasing power left next year?
Well, it's a couple of things that are interesting to that. From the facts that are what's happening is, first, they're IPOing in Hong Kong. They're not IPOing in Wall Street or in the United States, where it's usually where technology companies do of that scale do an IPO. The other element is that we do know also that Sequoia, for example, is a very large investor in Bitmain. I think they participated in the Series C or in the Series D round. It's a form of legitimization or validation from traditional technology players in terms of the relevance of Bitcoin mining. But certainly the fact that they are acquiring Bitcoin Cash, or at least that's what they are declaring in their statements for the IPO, kind of reveals what everyone has been commenting throughout all of 2017 since Bitcoin Cash was first launched, that they were behind it. So it's interesting to see what strategic role is trying to play that. Is Bitcoin Cash effectively an attack on Bitcoin? It's a very big piece of news. It looks like it's going to be. It is an attractive ICO from the agnostic perception or cold perception of an investor.
Yeah, so this seems to be really revealing because there was so much speculation going on last year. We didn't really know because we got Roger out there saying various things. We got Roger out there saying I sold all my Bitcoin, but who can trust Roger, right? We nobody actually really knew. And personally, I didn't actually think Roger would sell most of his Bitcoin for BCH. I mean, come on, guys, this is we know where the developers are in a development in a piece of software, right? Like that's kind of where you go to find out if a piece of software is secure or not. Who are the developers? How many updates are happening? How long has this thing been out in the wild? So very interesting stuff. Thank you for that, Santi. I think that Parabolic Trav, had a couple tweets as well out there. He says that if you look at, because remember, Samson is actually the one that the tweet that I'm linking to, and from that screenshot that Samson tweeted, Trav was basically saying that if you look at the first column, the BTC quantity from end of the year 2016 to 2017, it actually drops from their balance drops from 70,000 coins to 35,000 coins. And that's what's crazy is that it doesn't even reveal any of the additions from 2017 because we think that they sold off all of their BTC by the end of the year, literally, everything that they've made in 2017. So we think that they've sold all of that inventory, plus over 35,000 coins in 2016, all to support that Bcash. The BCH peg, the actual 0.1 peg. And this is interesting too. Do you have any comments on that, Santi, real quick on the peg? Because there was a lot of speculation that this was happening, that there was an actual peg, that there was these lenders of last resort, there was these people, these big players, these whales that were in fact keeping this peg up with many thousands of coins. Do you have any comments on that? Because some people were saying that wasn't even true.
I personally, I'm not aware of that, but it looks like, what I'm hearing, reading between the lines from what you're saying is the Bitmain had a role in the last, how significant was the role of Bitmain in the last bubble in December? We had fingers pointing at Bitfinex and Tethering and if that was legitimately inflating the price or not. But obviously, Bitmain has been a very relevant actor in economical terms, which also a threat in terms of what the centralization or decentralization means. And that's what I wonder from those numbers. I'm not aware exactly about what was happening behind the peg.
Yeah, and of course, all we can sort of do is speculate. Is look at their balance sheet, right, and see how much coin they've lost, and then look at this peg, and we can just speculate. But that's kind of what I'm getting from people around the Twitter sphere, what they're saying, and the math that they're doing. They're looking at these reports, so very interesting stuff. Let's ask Patrick next. Patrick, what are your thoughts on Bitmain? Selling most of their coin, and what are your thoughts on them? Is this going to impact them in the long run, or are they just going to be okay from the IPO now? And is this maybe the reason that they're IPOing early?
Interesting. Yeah, well, I think it's interesting we got this information from this pre-IPO documentation. Just to be able to see that is quite fascinating. It's crazy to me that they really did go all in on this, it appears. And I know back when I think Segwit 2x was getting close, I believe there was speculation that addresses related to Roger had transferred some very large amounts of Bitcoin. I remember being numbers like 50,000 BTC over to Bitfinex, to potentially dump and try to crush the Bitcoin market at that time, and prop up Bitcoin Cash. So yeah, I mean, it clearly it hasn't worked. So if this is true, then they're definitely in a much worse situation than they were before. And I think it just sort of like the emperor wears no clothes situation. We know now exactly sort of what happened with all the players involved, kind of in creating Bitcoin Cash and supporting that market. This definitely undermines the strategy of Roger Ver and Craig Wright for sure. Now, whether I don't know what Jihan Wu's strategy was. It seems like he had a different strategy than them. And just with Hypo Yang, via BTC, it seems like they had their own strategy going on. It just seems like all these players that thought they were all working together are not working together. And I don't know if as far as Bitmain's long-term success, yeah, I mean, this is a great exit point for a lot of these guys if they were involved in Bitcoin Cash. Doing the IPO will allow them to raise a substantial amount of money. And then put that risks onto shareholders, and then they can move on to other things.
Yeah, it's been unfortunate. This is where those times about those quotes coming up, right, from Henry Ford about if only the Americans knew about their actual financial system. Basically the IPO was completely designed to dump on plebs. I mean, that was the entire reason for the IPO. So to just shift the risk to the actual individual investors who really usually don't know what's going on. So very interesting comments. Thank you so much, Patrick. Yeah, I mean, to me, it feels like the splintering. Like I kind of tweeted this out the other day, or maybe it was today, but I'm basically like hashtag the splintering, because that's kind of what's happening over there in the Bitcoin Cash world. And it feels like, we have fake Satoshi unfollowing Gavin, and then we have, all of these people unfollowing each other. And it's really interesting to see all of these different parties. And then, of course, we had the Datalinks developer get booted out and kicked out of the Slack. So there's just all of this interesting dynamics where I think you hit the nail on the head. I think they all thought they were working together. And over the past couple of months, it has seemed that that is not the case. They have their own agendas. And of course, everybody has their own agenda. But boy, it seems like they weren't quite as aligned as they thought they were, because we, again, are seeing all of this splintering across Twitter, across the developers, across the communication platforms in the Bitcoin Cash world. So let's get Heidi's take on this. Heidi, what do you make of all of this this craziness of all of Bitmain selling these coins? Do you think Bitmain's going to make it? Do you think that they're going to do you think this IPO is going to save them? What are your thoughts on them selling most of all of their coin, all of their Bitcoin, their regular Bitcoin for Bitcoin Cash? Was that inevitable?
I'm just going to take away my video because it's a little bit pixelated. So yeah, it's interesting how Bitmain, decided to not diversify their portfolio and go all in on Bitcoin Cash. And then they lost, what was it, $500 million worth. And then now they're doing this IPO. I think also it's interesting, again, like Santiago said, that they're listing it on the Hong Kong exchange rather than Wall Street. Like, it could be a situation where even what they're presenting in that situation isn't entirely correct. And also now that they're going public, so what, they're going to be responsible for all their shareholders and what, they're going to want for the company to make money. So it's interesting how they're going to go public now, and the different kind of responsibilities that they're going to have for, not only for like surviving themselves, but for satisfying their now stakeholders. I think, it was not a good move, obviously, for them going into Bitcoin Cash. And I don't know, maybe this IPO is like a last-ditch effort to get some income or something, but it's probably not a good sign.
Yeah, I feel like, I've been hearing, again, people talk about, various hedge fund managers, various influencers, quote unquote, in the space. We've been hearing these talks about these, that people are just really not super excited to get into this IPO. They're just not. There is a level of sophistication in the crypto investment, and in the higher end, because just the amount of time that we've seen go by. We've had time now to analyze the situation. We've had a year now to figure out what are the benefits of Bitcoin Cash, and are these guys really better, and what makes them better? And so what we've seen now is that we've seen, like you said, the emperor. I think it was Patrick who said the emperor has no clothes now. We can see this. We can clearly see that the development is really, really, really lacking. And and now just recently, with that huge bug, we'll talk about soon. The next topic, there was a huge bug that could have just wiped out just billions of dollars of investment just entirely overnight from Bitcoin Cash. So I'm just not sure what their strategy is at this point, but it will be interesting to see this going forward. Does anybody have any final thing to say on this?
The only thing can I say something is that, there's a lot of competition coming into the mining space, and we already know that, it seems Bitmain is potentially falling behind. So they're coming up against a significant amount of future competition, and so this IPO to me is the only way to potentially develop some new mining hardware. I don't see what else they're going to get into unless they decide to really get into like other financialization services, which may be their strategy. I'm not sure, but
according to their document, I think their strategy said that they were going to literally have 40% of their profits from artificial intelligence in the next 5 years. And it's like, wait a second here, guys. We don't actually have real artificial intelligence yet. How is that supposed to make up half of your revenue? So it's just weird stuff like that we're seeing in these documents. And like the panelists have already pointed out, they are IPOing in Hong Kong. it's just interesting with something of this value and of this technical nature, and again, where all the software development happens mostly in the US, that they're IPOing, in Hong Kong. And again, all of this stuff, most of the stuff is, English speaking, this crypto world. It's just interesting that they're going to do this. I feel like they're trying to fool less sophisticated investors into this. And then, and again, as Patrick just pointed out, they're still selling the S9s, guys. Like they are years behind the competition now at this point. We're going down to 7 freaking nanometer chips, and they're still selling these hardware chips from a couple of years ago. So I feel like competition is beginning to now finally eat their lunch, and I feel like there's a lot more competition coming into the space soon. You guys can just read all these articles. We talk about this on the show. More people entering and more people IPOing into the mining space all over the world, especially Canada. And again, there was this big IPO in Japan recently. So more and more competition coming into the space. Bitmain falling behind, losing, $500 million plus or more, trying to keep this peg, and now they're trying to IPO to all of these people who already know what's going on. So it's kind of crazy, but this is what's happening over there, and this is a big story we wanted to talk about. But I think we can move on to the next topic. If anybody else has anything else to say on this one, let me know. No. Okay, cool. So yeah, very interesting stuff, guys. Check out the links below. Again, follow the story. We're going to continue following the story, keep you guys updated, but it is pretty crazy. So let's see. Let's close that, and we can move on to the next topic. So this one's pretty cool. This is having a little bit to do again with BCH here. Basically, there was the title of this topic is responsible disclosure in the era of cryptocurrencies. And so there was a big story that just recently happened about a core developer, Mr. Corey Fields. He wrote an article talking about how he actually ended up anonymously disclosing this potentially huge chain-breaking bug in Bitcoin Cash. Now, we don't know if this bug exists in a bunch of other different currencies either, but currently that's where it was found, because actually the developer, Corey, what he does is he goes on like other cryptocurrency GitHubs every so once in a while, and he checks the updates, because see, most of this other code out there is kind of based on Bitcoin's code or very similar, right? So what he does is he checks to see other source code repos and see if any of that can be actually replicated on Bitcoin. And so he was checking the Bitcoin Cash repo and found this, and it's like, holy smokes. So it's a pretty crazy bug. So let's ask Santiago first on this, get your thoughts on this. What do you think? Did he disclose this responsibly? Should it be disclosed anonymous? Did he do the right thing? And then, of course, what is your comments on the bug happening itself? Is this going to happen again anytime soon? These huge bugs, are these potentially going to happen in the future to either Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash?
Well, you said it yourself when you mentioned that a big part of the value of Bitcoin itself is the quality of the developers. And anyone that has been into software development knows how hard this discipline is and how tricky it is to effectively build these types of networks that involve also a substantial knowledge in cryptography. So I think that the disclosure of this bug was done in very good terms. The first anonymously to the Bitcoin Cash team responsible for developing the fork, and it later became political. The moment that you attach an identity to this story, it becomes quite a statement, which is helping understand where where's the real value, the real human value that is being added to these networks. It is scary that these are networks that manage billions of dollars. They manage apparently a lot of the assets of Bitmain, the largest player in the industry, quote unquote. So certainly the fact that the code is not as good or has these risks, and potentially can lead to significant losses. It's also a very scary thought about what is the state of the art right now.
Yeah, very interesting. And I too want to comment on this, but I'm going to let the panelists go first. So Patrick, or actually let's go with Heidi next. We're trying to switch it up, going back and forth. Heidi, what is your thoughts on this kind of huge bug? Do you see more of these happening? Like I know we're not protocol developers, guys, on this panel. Let's just disclose that real quick. None of us here are protocol developers. I'm a application developer, web developer. But I just want to see what you think. Is this kind of par for the course? Have we seen a lot of bugs like this before on Bitcoin Cash? And do you think we'll see some more of this? And what is your comments on the disclosure of this? Was this handled in the right way, in your opinion?
Well, first of all, I think Corey Fields should be called the new Bitcoin Jesus, because he was under no obligation to do this. And his whole reasoning is saying, you know, because if it were him, if you know, he wanted to treat it in a way that he would want them to treat him. So yeah, I thought that was great. In regards to, you know, like the history of bugs with Bitcoin Cash, I'm not that familiar with that, but all of this technology is still new, and as you're trying to scale, as you're trying to do more solutions, change more lines of code, there's going to be more bugs. So yeah, I think more bugs for everyone should be a given. But the fact that this is open source, it's like the beauty of this, not only for like your project to be open source just so you could say, look, we're open source, we're being transparent, it's so that other people can find bugs for you, you can learn from other people. And yeah, that's like kind of the beauty of this whole thing is to open it up so everyone can learn. And I think it's great the way that he treated this. Like he took the time to go through trying to make it an encrypted message, trying to not, you know, have the hand. Even if I know in his blog post he did say something like, because if I did do this not anonymously, if someone took advantage of it, it would have been blamed on him. So there is that to it. But the fact that he continued to, you know, report it, I think it was great. And I think that's a testament to that there's still honest people in this space who are just trying to make improvements for the good of like this whole crypto space. So it is a little scary that there can be a line of code changed in any cryptocurrency so quickly, because I know that blog, it also said it was only reviewed by 2 people a week, and then it was passed, and there wasn't a real important reason to make that change, and for that to lead into something that could create a complete blockchain split that would screw everybody, that's kind of scary. So it's again, it's a lesson I think that everyone can learn from this. And yeah, so good for Corey Fields. I'm glad that he came through and he reported that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just some good points. I mean, like you said, the actual bug itself was reviewed by only 2 developers. The code itself, the change was only reviewed by 2 developers, and then just put live like a few days later. I mean, it is kind of crazy. It was very strange. The reason cited, the reason cited was something as vague as encapsulation, I believe is what was actually quoted in the article. But that's really vague, because in actual development programming terms, I mean, encapsulation, you know, it just talks about encapsulating your packets, you know, to be transmitted. So it doesn't really make much sense when you're talking about validation, you know. So that's a big huge difference here. We're talking about encapsulation and signature validation. So let's go to Patrick here next. What is your thoughts on this kind of crazy huge chain breaking bug?
Well, I mean, I think Santiago and Heidi pretty much covered for the most part. Yeah, it's really wonderful to see you know, core developers, Bitcoin core developers, contributing so positively to the space. They really always have, and they've really, in my opinion, for the most part, there's been a certain level of like ethical responsibility that has been, I think that many of them share. And so it's nice to see Corey sort of extending this and not using that obviously to do anything bad. Now, you know, I think what's really troubling to me is just that it was really cool that Dedelnix came out and said, you know, thank you, you know, so much for, you know, we really appreciated that, and the way Corey had disclosed it was done in a really great way, in a responsible way. I think what's frustrating to me though is that, you know, the next day Roger Ver came out and blatantly just was like on Twitter, like Bitcoin core developers are blah 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 blah, and start, you know, just keeping up with the trash talk. And it's just there's just a level of intellectual bankruptcy at this point. I think from Roger Ver that, you know, in a way it's actually another case of the emperor wears no clothes in this case now, where, you know, I think it's become very clear. I hope to everyone that there's been people that are that are not interested in this type of ethical responsibility in the space, and we need to be clear about who are the positive contributors to the space and who are not going forward. So this is, to me, is a great moment in time at the right time as well. You know, because Bitcoin is just making so many strides forward, and this just reiterates the ethical strength that backs the whole project as well. So.
Absolutely. Great points, man. Just great to see these core developers, despite all of the visceral, the craziness, the hatred, and then all of this stuff being thrown, at core developers by these huge BCH proponents like Roger and like Fake Satoshi, to have this type of amazing ethical behavior still coming from these core developers, some of these smartest people in the world. Again, Corey Fields, is a developer at the MIT Media Lab. I mean, this is where they are paid to work on the actual cryptocurrencies themselves, to be able to study these things and figure out if they're actually, figure out bugs and figure out problems, so we can actually use these for the public. Because again, it is so early. I try to mention this all the time, guys. It is early days. We are still figuring this stuff out. And to have this type of ethical behavior from the core developers be displayed on display for the whole world is just really, heartwarming for me, in my opinion. And I just feel a huge sense of camaraderie, a huge sense of thankfulness, for this type of behavior from these guys. So I just want to thank again Corey so much for that. So I just want to actually put a little bit more color on this too, for the people who are following along. So basically, this is the developer's name is Corey Fields. He works at the MIT Media Lab. I just want this whole bug is actually really simple. Like, I just wanted to make so non-developers can understand. I just want to explain a little bit. So essentially, what this was in the actual validation code, guys. This is where the signature validation happens. This is the most important piece of software in all of the cryptocurrency code right here, is the signature validation. This is where we validate to see if the transaction is actually valid or not. This is where we see, is this transaction a part of this chain? Is this somebody faking this? Do they have more coin than they say they are? Did they say they do? So the very, very, very basic rules at this level. But what happened is that the actual code in there that was uploaded, that was changed, was to accept signatures, or to accept essentially hashes that they didn't accept before. So this is a brand new hash that they now started accepting, that all the previous nodes did not accept, and over half the network had already upgraded to this. So if somebody took advantage of this, they could essentially split the chain. That means all the people that just upgraded will be separated now from all the people that didn't upgrade yet, which is about half. Because the node upgrade time on Bitcoin Cash is pretty a long time. It takes everybody a long time to update. There's actually still people, like 10% of the network, still running on 2 or 3 versions prior to this. So it's very interesting. So this is what happens. This is what causes the chain splitting bug, is that now the transactions, newer transactions, get validated that old ones don't. So very crazy stuff. And again, this is one of the most critical pieces, guys. The most critical pieces of the software is the transaction validation. So what happened was, this was an accidental bug, that somebody put in there in a new version that got put in there by very little peer review process, very, very little peer review process, and was put on there. Now, we all make mistakes, guys, but this is where you have to separate the men from the boys, right? The most important part of the code should be reviewed by some of the most senior developers, some of the most senior people, some of the most people with the most experience, working longest on this stuff. It should not, something that important, be just put right into the code like that. So we, again, thank you guys. Thank you, core team. Thank you, Corey Fields, so much for revealing this. We really, really appreciate it. And we hope that more people in the space can actually have this type of ethical disclosure, can have this type of actual integrity when it comes to this type of behavior. So thanks, guys, so much. Thanks, Corey, so much for that. Does anybody have any final things to say on this topic? No? Okay.
I just was gonna comment briefly. Like, there's 2 types of debugging happening. There's the code being debugged and the ethics being debugged. And it's really, really fascinating how certain characters ended up in the Bitcoin Cash that, you just look a little bit behind the reputation, what's been going on throughout their careers. And it's really strange how the waters, were divided in the whole ecosystem. So there's that kind of debugging. Roger Ver, has certainly become quite a figure related to that.
I think you're muted.
There we go. Sorry. So, and it's just unfortunate again, because, as Patrick said, he said that the day after, guys, the day after this bug was properly fixed, disclosed, and everything, Roger was right back on there dissing the core team. And it's just really unfortunate to see, these people continue that narrative over and over again, despite how many times. Remember, remember, guys, this is not the first time Core has helped Bitcoin Cash with an entirely chain-breaking bug. This is like the second or third time we continue to help people because, again, there's a couple reasons. A couple of bugs back that we had that we helped them out with, it would have actually might have affected Bitcoin Core as well. It might have affected the Bitcoin chain. So this was having to do with the chain split. And now again, we're trying to help. The core team is trying to help make sure that these guys, that these chains don't cause ecosystem-wide issues, right? That's what we want to make sure we don't cause is ecosystem-wide issues. And so again, that's part of the ethics behind this is that we're all in this together. So very interesting stuff, guys. Okay, I think we can move on to the next topic. Oh, I didn't even mention the name of the bug, guys. The actual name of the bug is called was called the SIG hash bug because it was the hash that was being verified in the signature itself. So check that out, guys. Again, I have the links for this in the show notes below. I think we can move on to the final topic. So here we go. Close this here. And the final topic is this. So basically, the Lightning Network has now has a brand new decentralized exchange that people are calling SparkSwap. So the name of this exchange is SparkSwap. They're making their debut. There is an article about them on Bitcoin Magazine talking about their release. And there's some interesting waves are being made with this exchange, guys. So I wanted to get the feedback from the panelists to see what they think about this. Santi, again, we'll go with you as the special guest first. What do you think about this? Did you get a chance to check this out about this new decentralized exchange running on the top of Lightning?
I think it's fascinating. Ever since I find out swaps happening with Lightning, and I remember watching the very first demos probably around the end of last year, where the first atomic swap using Lightning between Litecoin and Bitcoin, and that's a mind-blowing possibility regarding the infrastructure for crypto to flourish in ways and usages and ways to create contracts that can be beyond the boundaries of specific blockchains. There's enormous potential behind this technology in terms of advancing, what these protocols can achieve in terms of digital institutionalization, and I think it's great to see this technology is mature. I found out about this today. I haven't looked, into this implementation itself, and it looks like it's a pre-alpha product, an early product, but certainly very much needed infrastructure for the ecosystem to decentralize the critical points right now, which are exchanges, and trying to build more self-sovereign ways to trade these assets.
Yes, very great points. This is a pre-alpha, so there is it's not for release yet, but they do have code that is actually working. They actually have created these transactions, and Santi said it there. What they're doing is atomic swaps over Lightning. So this is pretty interesting stuff because you see atomic swaps on chain, they were okay. The problem is there was a bunch of trade-offs, but now atomic swaps on Lightning is so much better because we're talking instant, almost instant, within 1 second, is what they're claiming that they can do is transactions within 1 second, which pretty much rivals a lot of, crappy centralized crypto exchanges out there. When it comes to this stuff on Main Street or Wall Street and these big, huge financial institutions, they of course work with milliseconds, right? 10, 20 milliseconds. But this is still impressive because this is completely decentralized. So that is really interesting, running over the top of Lightning, which means that via payment channels, you can actually transfer coins from Litecoin to Bitcoin and Bitcoin to Litecoin. So through the Lightning Network. And again, because it's on the Lightning Network, it's secure. It's instant, and it is encrypted from end to end. So there's a huge level of privacy gain that we gain on this versus the on-chain atomic swaps. So let's go to Patrick next on this. Patrick, what are your thoughts on this? This being they're claiming that this is the first crypto exchange to be built on the Lightning Network. What are your thoughts on this? Is this something? Are we finally getting to have this technology be viable? To be able to put to consumers? Is this thing almost ready yet?
Well, we're moving in the right direction, that's for sure. We obviously, I think we're all aware now that that censorship is becoming a big deal, and this, who knows where this, the possibility of shutting down servers in the future could go, and all sorts of other types of censorship activity that could happen. But yeah, this is exciting because it really allows users to to instantly trade things without having to go on exchange. I mean, there's a reason I never put funds on exchange because frankly I've seen enough exchanges collapse, And I've seen a lot of users lose funds. And this whole entire revolution really is about not using custodial solutions. So if we can move away from that and start moving towards this, now how realistic is it in the next year? I don't think it's really going to take off that quickly. But I do think that no matter what, there's people are going to start building these solutions. They're going to start adding liquidity, and finally, you can be a market maker without having to rely on a centralized service, ideally. And that's the beautiful thing. Where anywhere you go, you can have your wallet with you. You can be a market maker. You don't need to put your funds on a centralized exchange. That's the most important thing right there. So this is moving us in the right direction, no matter what.
Yep, absolutely. Again, just like Binance, right, launching a decentralized exchange. This probably isn't maybe fully 100% decentralized, because we'll get into a little bit later after ask Heidi about this too. I'm going to explain a couple details about it, but it's just really close. It's really close getting there. The biggest part is being able to control your own funds. I mean, that's the biggest part. Keep having 100% control of your funds. At least that is true. That is not true on any normal exchange. Not, as Andreas always says, guys, not your keys, not your Bitcoin. So very interesting. Let's go to Heidi on this. Heidi, what are your thoughts on this newfangled thing? This lightning, atomic swaps over Lightning. Do you think this is going to take off soon? And what do you think liquidity can actually eventually come to these decentralized exchanges? Because right now there is a bit of a lack of liquidity. It's new. Do you think that we can eventually make the leap?
I think, well, not exactly the masses are into crypto or using the exchanges yet. And so for them, like, their first exposure is the centralized exchanges. And for them, that's like a whole new experience. And I think it's good that SparkSwap and all these other decentralized exchanges are building a solution for something that I think centralized exchanges are like the ideal situation for exchanging cryptocurrencies. So it's good that they're laying the groundwork for especially something that can use something like the Lightning Network or micropayments or fast transactions without using a third party. So so I don't think I agree with Patrick. It's not going to be probably the next year or so. I think something big has to happen where people are going to need to use cryptocurrencies, and they're going to need to do it without a third party being controlled by whatever wants to control it. So, and again, like with the centralized exchanges, again, not being in control of your funds, you see, you're not able to, they'll freeze your funds for whatever reason if they're like doing the wallet maintenance. You can't even exchange it if you want to. There's been a lot of issues with like Cryptopia and like Smart Cash. They were like saving the funds and then not paying out people their proper rewards and all this stuff. So there's a lot to be improved upon. And I think for the most part, we're seeing a lot of people who are just getting to expose to cryptocurrency right now. And so they don't really necessarily realize what they're getting used to. And so once something big happens where they get their funds taken away, or they're locked out of their account or something, or they're stolen because it's stored on a centralized exchange. Yeah, again, decentralized exchanges are definitely the way of the future. It's something I've been talking about for a long time on my own channel. So I think it's good that it's interesting that they're trying to facilitate both atomic swaps and kind of micropayment kind of a thing. I think that's interesting, not only just being able to quickly, cheaply pay someone, but to pay them in a currency different than one that they would be able to receive. That's really interesting. So yeah, I think it's promising that people have the foresight to develop this kind of technology before it's actually needed, because if you're trying to play catch up, that's just, I think, a disaster waiting to happen.
That's right. I mean, we see all of this work on privacy, all of this work on decentralization. And, we think that maybe maybe most people aren't paying attention yet. Maybe they won't know yet. But when situations like Alex Jones arise, I mean, we have these black swan moments, and, people have to touch the stove to see that it's hot first before they can learn. And this is Alex Jones, I think, is another touch the stove moment. We're going to have a bunch more before this is all before this story is over. And I think that people are definitely going to learn in a hurry. We're gonna have like a black swan moment, and there's just going to be a huge herd of people rushing to these services because they don't want to get their businesses taken offline. They see because it's going to get worse and worse. So it's not going to get, for example, better. They're not going to like stop banning people on Twitter. They're not going to stop shadow banning people on Twitter. They're not going to stop locking people's accounts. They're going to keep doing these things. So it's only a matter of time before they continue to do it enough to where people just before a sea change happens, right? And that's what we're gonna see happen. We're gonna see the scales tip eventually, in my opinion. And now, as everybody on the panel has said, this could take a while. This could take years, but it's happening. It's slowly happening. It's happening right now. And this is just another example. I mean, we do have things like 0x and MetaMask, but unfortunately, of course, those things aren't very secure at all. But this is an order of magnitude more secure than that. But Still at the same time, there's work being done. There's a general understanding in the world that we are being censored like crazy on these huge services like Facebook, like YouTube. We see people get kicked off, and we know there's a problem. So I'm just glad that, like you say, Heidi, we're building these services now so that when we're really ready, when the world is really ready, we can be ready to onboard all of those people. So very, very cool. Let me just talk just a little bit about this, because they said that there was two parts to this particular decentralized exchange. So it's basically, again, made up of two parts. The first is called the broker, which is the software run by users. It interprets users' actions, converts them to network actions. So your basic UI there on the user end side, executing payment channel network swaps, and manages the wallets and the private key. So that's the user side, your basic general stuff. But then there's the second part, which is the relayer. Now, this is currently apparently being run by staff members again. So can't be fully decentralized, right? It's being run by staff members, but it connects brokers who wish to execute monetary swaps and provides the order book updates, mitigates fraud and market manipulation. So it assists with the users agreeing on swap prices and executes trades over these payment channels on this Lightning network. So there is, it gets to be kind of complex, but there's a couple different parts, and again, it's not really fully decentralized, but at least you get to keep your funds. It's like the HODL exchange almost, where the HODL decentralized exchange, you are in 100% control of your funds at all times. And so that's what's really cool. And that's what I hope that we move to, is these types of services. And I think that the panel agrees with me on that. So does anybody have any final things to say on the decentralized exchanges with Lightning atomic swaps?
Well, one thing I want to say is just that these, the HTLCs, the hash time lock contracts that sort of make this whole thing possible, Lightning possible, they're really exciting, because you can do applications like this. And if your, channel partner does, you say that relayer goes down or something happens, like you just have to wait a certain amount of time until those funds are released. And that's sort of the beautiful aspect of these that makes this whole thing sort of work. So.
And it's a good point, because these hash lock, these hash lock time contracts, this is something that's really important, because in my opinion, this is kind of the only actual working multi-sig at scale that's decentralized, really. Because in my opinion, Ethereum, they've dropped the ball a couple times when it comes to actually like having a safe multi-sig wallet, like for example, parity examples and things like that. But really, a Bitcoin smart contract, man, a multi-sig contract in Bitcoin. I mean, there is nothing more secure. This is beyond government grade security. You can assure that if you have a certain date, that Bitcoin will get there, unless the entire planet has been exploded by a meteor. There's just no other way that the transaction will get there, because everything in Bitcoin, all of the code in Bitcoin, I mean, just all of it, all of the complexity, all of the different bits, the actual different programming blocks, it is all to do one thing, and that is to send a transaction from point A to point B, point A to point B. That is the absolute most important thing on the Bitcoin network, is the transaction. And it is treated with such care, and it is made sure that that beyond anything else, that there is 100% guarantee. And so I just really love that about Bitcoin, that the security, the integrity, the developers trying to, spending years and years about making this more efficient. Because again, guys, in the Bitcoin core team, like, a few years back, like 30% gains were kind of normal. Like if you discovered something in the Bitcoin core code, maybe in 2012, 2013, you'd find some 30, 40, 50% gains. And you're like, yes, this is awesome. Like 50% gains on this one little tweak. This is great. Continuously being optimized, but it's so freaking optimized now that, I mean, you're lucky to get like a 10%, 5% squeeze out of something, you know. So it's really, really cool to see this types of evolution. And again, to be able to double the block size with SegWit, there's so much technology is happening in here inside of Bitcoin right now. And the scaling, the syncing, just everything is getting more and more optimized. So I just went off a little bit of a tangent there, but guys, this is so exciting. It's Bitcoin continues to evolve. Tons more features and stuff is on the way, you know, between Lightning and Schnorr signatures, the privacy that's coming along with things like you know, hidden wallet. This type of stuff is really exciting, and it's going to be here sooner than you know it. And I think that I still stand by the statement that Lightning itself will pretty much be used in almost every major facet of the cryptocurrency ecosystem by the end of next year. By the end of next year, at some point, like your software, your wallet has to be connected to the Lightning Network at some point to be able to do things. And so that's what I think is going to happen. So we'll have to see how that works out. But I really appreciate everybody joining us, guys, and listening to me ramble on, and our amazing panelists. We really, really, really appreciate it, guys, for coming on. We know it's a Sunday, so you're busy, but the fans love it. We love it, and we love to learn. So we thank you so much. Heidi, where can we find out more about you?
Yeah, for sure. I'm on Twitter at blockchainchick, and I also have a YouTube channel called Crypto Tips. And if you guys are looking for a social media that won't block you, Steemit is like a blog platform. I've been there for a couple years. You can find me there at steemit.com/@HeidiTravels.
Very, very cool. Thank you so much, Heidi, for joining. We really appreciate it. Mr. Patrick, where can we find out more about you?
Yeah, right now, just find me on Twitter at Pat Miller Time, and then I'm now on the Mastodon social network, the Bitcoin Hackers. Same at Pat Miller Time. You're welcome to find me there as well. Right now, I'm mostly just commenting, punting, and fighting FUD out there. So.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people moving to Mastodon, guys. I mean, I don't know if you're a part of crypto Twitter, you might want to check that out, because there is a little bit of a mini exodus kind of going on right now, because people, again, are fed up with this censorship. You know, they're fed up with people getting their accounts locked. They're fed up with people getting banned. And so we're looking to these more decentralized services like Mastodon. So check that out, guys, if you get a chance. That was bitcoinhackers.org. That is the instance that is set up by the one and only Rodolfo Novak of Open Dime. So check that out, guys. I am on there as well. You can find me at Vortex, but if you search the one Vortex, you'll still find me. Santi, where can we find out more about you and your Democracy Earth project, sir?
Of course, you can find me on Twitter. I'm there most of the day at Santi City. And about Democracy Earth, also you can follow at Democracy Earth, or democracy.earth is the website with information. What we're trying to figure out is not so much the financial side of crypto, but the political side of crypto. And it's we get to meet a lot of fascinating people from around the world that are thinking about the future of democracy and these technologies.
Yep, very, very cool stuff. It is an interesting project, guys. Check that out. That is Democracy Earth. They are trying to decentralize the world, right? Decentralized government, provide these new type of services that can become from the internet instead of a centralized party. So very, very cool, Santi. Thank you so much for joining. We really appreciate it, guys. We're going to be here. We're actually have so much stuff planned for next week. Just real quick, so you guys know. I mean, there's a couple of let's see, a couple here. Just look my schedule here. We got a couple of deciphered episodes coming out next week. Of course, I might actually have a perspective show as well. We're also going to be covering some events live with Crypto Tech Live. There's a couple of different crypto events out here that we want to cover, and then I believe I'm doing an on the record with Tone Vase next week. I'm definitely going to be interviewing him for this channel as well. So I guess we're going to be interviewing each other for each other's channels. So lots of stuff, guys, coming out next week. Really, really, really excited to bring all this stuff to you. Let me just share the screen so we can close out real quick. Screen share. There we go. Very, very cool. So yeah, guys, again, you can find us at cryptocast.network, and of course at CryptocastNet on Twitter. And we did just launch some t-shirts that you guys can check out. We have the One Vortex on there, and the Bitcoin News Show, a bunch of awesome stuff. And they're pretty cheap, only $25 if you guys want to help support the channel. We really, really appreciate it. And of course, we have our donation address there as well. And then the programming with Bitcoin.com workshop. We've launched 3 cities now so far. 3 cities, which is, there it is, Las Vegas on September 1st, and San Francisco October 6th, and Seattle, Washington on November 3rd. We're really excited to teach more developers about Bitcoin, get more people working with Bitcoin, get more developers programming with Bitcoin. That's what we need to do. And so that is the goal. So guys, we really, really appreciate you being on the show. And until next time, keep talking Bitcoin. See you guys later.